Hi guys, welcome to my new toy, a 2022 TRD Pro Tacoma. Now, it's a long story how I ended up with this vehicle. We'll get to that later. But if you've clicked this link, you want to know about this truck, how I feel about this truck. Let's just hop in and get on the road. Let's take a look underneath the 2022 TRD Pro Tacoma. First off, the later model TRD Pros have an additional factory 1.5-inch lift up front and a 1/2 inch in the rear. This bumps the approach angle to a generous 36.4 degrees, bested only by the Jeep Gladiator Rubicon at 43.4 and the yet-to-be-released new generation of Colorado and Canyon AT4X, which is sitting on 33-inch tires and has a 36.9 degree approach angle. You'll also see the Toyota independent front suspension system. The tie rods look to be about as robust as those on my GX, and with the wider track of the Pro, I'll be looking to keep some factory spares. The lower control arms are flat to keep the ground clearance up, and the TRD Pro skid plate is beefy and has access for oil changes. You can't see the new TRD Pro upper control arms from this camera angle, but they are also nice. Here you can see everything tucked in quite nicely between the frame rails. The only outlier is the exhaust crossover pipe, which is flattened to help maintain ground clearance. But if you pinch this on the trail, it could be a bad day. Thankfully, it's located just behind the front wheel, so you probably won't have an issue. The gas tank has a nice skid on it, and the muffler sits above the rear axle. All of this gives the Tacoma a best-in-class breakover angle, which is hugely important. At 26.6 degrees, the TRD Pro destroys the competition. The Gladiator checks in at a pathetic 20.3, Ranger Tremor at 24.2, ZR2 Colorado at 23.5, and the new ZR2 AT4X is only 24.5 despite being on 33-inch tires. Toyota manages to do all of this with a factory 31-inch tire, and that's some good engineering for you. At the bottom of the differential, we'll talk about ground clearance. Here the Tacoma is limited by the factory 31-inch tires, giving it a respectable 9.4 inches of ground clearance. But it's actually the worst of the competition. The Rubicon is 11.1, ZR2 is 10, Ford manages to eke past the TRD with the Tremor package at 9.6, and the new ZR2 AT4X is listed at 10.7. At the back, the spare tire is tucked up, but notice the gap between it and the exhaust routing. You aren't going to fit much more than the factory-size spare back there. Departure angle is always a concern on mid-size trucks, and at 24.7, it's only marginally better than the outgoing ZR2, which has 23.5 degrees. So I only have 345 miles on the odometer right now. So I'll probably have put 350 on by the time this drive is complete in this review. So this is very much a first impression video. What do I think of the third generation Tacoma after driving all the other off-road vehicles that I've had on my channel and even some that I haven't reviewed on my channel? Well, the first thing is people talk about the seating position. So you sit in it like a sedan. You're not sitting in it like a chair. You're sitting in it more like a sports car. And I was worried about my height, that I wouldn't have enough room to fit. They've updated their electric seats for the newer models so that you sit lower. And so I don't have a problem finding a comfortable seating position. It's very nice. I have the manual transmission, the dead pedal's in a perfect position. The ergonomics are awesome. People knock on the Toyota because, oh, it's old. It needs to be updated. There's not multi-touch screens and electronic doohickey bobs or whatever. And yeah, I guess it's dated. People knock on the steering wheel. The buttons are big. You can push them with gloves. I've got real knobs here. I can change everything. I got buttons with great feedback off to the side right there. You know, honestly, the biggest ergonomic gripe I have is the 8.1-inch multifunction display. And it's a generic multifunction display that's in multiple Toyotas. If I was in the little sports car, everything would be great. But if I'm changing the channels on my radio or something, I got to reach out far over here, and I'm clicking. The clicks are so close together that if I'm on an off-road trail, I'm bumping, I'm changing 3 to 4 channels. And yeah, you can set presets so that you can use the multifunction displays on the steering wheel, but I haven't done that yet. And so when I change the channels one at a time, I got to do it this way. There was no way I could find to change the steering wheel to one station at a time if I'm on XM or FM. It always goes to presets. So you really need to set your presets if you want to change your stuff offline. These buttons are okay. Up on the other side, the volume button is in a good spot. It's that turning channel knob, which is really annoying. Another thing we found is the wireless charger down at the bottom. On the iPhone that we tested, it only charged when it wasn't in the case. It wasn't strong enough to do the charge with the case on it. That's one thing to know. If you're using Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, you're gonna have it plugged in anyway, so turn that off or move. There's a slot up front you can put your phone if you're doing the CarPlay, and maybe put someone else's phone on the wireless charger, but you need to have the case off. At least that's how we found it. Driving today, I went off-road on a county road, graded county road. It had washboards, and the TRD Pro Fox shocks, to me, are the real deal. It was amazing. I was driving, and what I do is I drive until I feel the handling start to stutter, I guess you could say. And I looked down and I was doing between 60 to 70 miles an hour, 65 to 70 even most of the time, which is honestly unsafe on those kind of roads. I was just doing it for science. And that's up there with my Range Rover L322 with cross-linked air suspension, which is super expensive. It blows my GX out of the water, my lifted LX out of the water, the Hummer H3 out of the water. Definitely solid axle vehicles like the Discovery 2 and the Jeep Wrangler. It just flies and it's super smooth. So that is one thing that's really nice about it. So you ask yourself, why would I want to pay the premium for a TRD Pro when you can get a TRD off-road for significantly cheaper, and I can throw a better suspension in dialed for what I like to do? And that's absolutely true. I ordered a Lunar Rock 6-speed manual with leather seats because I'm a leather snob, and I ordered that, and they told me you just couldn't get them. So Toyota doesn't take special orders, they take allocations. And I guess because of the chip shortage, they weren't making high-end trim TRD off-roads. They said if I wanted leather, I'd have to pay extra, and the dealer would put cat skin leather in, and then I wouldn't have the heated seats or any of the tech package like blind spot monitoring, whatever. And when you price out the options, the TRD Pro is not that much more than a fully loaded TRD off-road. So it made sense to me to get this because the 2022s were coming out. Lunar Rock was being canceled. Army Green was being canceled. Those are the two colors I really wanted. So I went with the TRD Pro. And really, I would not get this trim if I was going to modify my Tacoma. I'm going to do this a little bit differently on my channel with the Tacoma. I'm not going to build the big overland Tacoma. This one, God, it's the best gas mileage vehicle I own. I want to keep it that way. I want to see what I can do with the TRD Pro in basically stock trim with the Fox shot suspensions, and I plan on definitely putting sliders on. I'm not used to this 127-inch wheelbase. Breakover angle is going to be an issue, but really the build, I guess you could say. I threw a Lomax tonneau cover on in the back, bed lighting in the rear, and all I have to do now is put the rock sliders on, and really my build, quote unquote, is complete. You know, after using cable shift four-wheel drive controllers for so long, going to the solenoid is just annoying. I go here and I've got to go to 4 high before I shift to 4 low, and then, oh, it actually shifted in. When I first got it, sometimes it goes in, sometimes it doesn't. Now I'll go and shift it into 4 low. Oh, now for the video, it's gonna go really good. You can see the multi-terrain mode is really cool. I turn the steering wheel to the left, you'll see where my future view goes. Turn to the right. I've got the tilt meter right there. I've got this on auto. What auto means is if I put it in reverse, it's gonna shift. It's gonna shift to the reverse view. It's gonna automatically switch as I go, front view, reverse view. So let's go forward. Up here is my rear diff lock, which is really awesome, why it came with that. And that's why if you're gonna do off-roading, really get the off-road trim at least, or get the Pro. There it goes. Now you click it. I wonder why. I'm gonna have to read up on that, but I've got this play thing saying it's recording. So it must be doing something with software maybe scanning what's behind so it shows something underneath. But as you go forward, you can see where my rockers are. I mean, that blue line's gonna be right where the rock sliders are, and then this camera moving, it's jerking. It's like it's taking multiple pictures. And then it might kick back out to the regular mode when you start going faster. So I need to read up on that. And then it goes to the faster. When you get above 7 or 8 miles per hour, it goes off completely. Now, in the multifunction display, pitch and roll, it was in the radar mode. Now I've got the pitch and roll. You see I'm on a little hill right now. Let's get that. Let's get me going up. It's hard to shift and film and hold the GoPro all at the same time. Pitch and roll is moving. Cameras are going. All in all, I really, really like it in 4-low. One thing that's really interesting with the manual transmission that is kind of a gripe is, is a convenience. When you drive, it automatically locks, right? Well, in your regular car, when you put it in park, it unlocks. This car doesn't know when you're in park, and it will not unlock. So it auto locks when you drive, and now everyone has locked doors. They've got to either manually unlock it with the lever, which is really easy, or you have to keep pushing the lock unlock button, because your kids, anybody in the back, they're always locked in when you stop. One thing I noticed, I've got it in front, you can see on my rocker right here, there's a tree there, getting there close, and there's also near the back. Let's scroll over. You see the tree right there, and I'm kind of close to the back. When I put it in reverse, my parking sonar worked. I'm gonna do it again. Kick in. There it goes. I started letting out the clutch, and so the parking also works in 4-low, which is really pretty cool. And if you find that annoying, you can just turn it off right there. There's your blind spot monitoring. You can turn that off here. This is a 3D one as I'm going up this hill. You can see it moving, just really cool. Then we'll show it over here. So one thing about the manual, or not the manual, but if you have the advanced tech package, is with the blind spot monitoring, if you want a rear bumper that's metal and armored, from what I can gather at this moment, there is no rear bumper that's blind spot monitoring compatible. And so that right there is enough for you not to pay for that feature if you plan on up armoring your Tacoma, because you will lose it once you get the metal bumper in the rear. Now, if there is a blind spot monitoring compatible rear bumper now, put it in the comments below, or if one comes in the future, comment below, we'll pin it up top, because that is definitely something someone is going to want to have on their Tacoma. Let's look at this now. I'm in 4th gear and 4-low. I'm going to get up my speed now. I'm probably going about 10 miles an hour. About 10 miles an hour here, and you can see I'm back to, oops, I just slowed down. You can watch that change. When you get up in speed, it automatically kicks off the camera view, which I guess is okay. Honestly, if you're going faster than 7 miles an hour, you shouldn't be looking at your cameras anyway. And honestly, I'm not sure, other than really verifying what your spotter is looking at, you probably shouldn't be looking at them when you're even in 4-low. But it is definitely a cool gadget. So another thing that's interesting is A-Track. You have to engage it. I'm used to my Lexuses where A-Track is always on. We will not try to hit a tree as I try to drive and push this at the same time. It should show A-Track. There it is in the top left by our temperature. Let's get this out here. Having a stick shift is a lot of fun. Shifts aren't exactly a short shift, but they're smooth and they're notchy. Reverse is all the way over and up. I would prefer if it was all the way over and down. When I was getting used to it, I'll show you. When I was getting used to the shifter, there's first, but if you're at a stoplight and you're trying to make sure you're in first, you can push that detent over pretty easy, and you'll hear it beep at you and your camera changes. So every time you go in reverse, it beeps at you. So my dad was telling me as I was leaving the city after I bought it that he backed up a couple times because he noticed at the stoplight that I had it in reverse, and obviously your reverse backup lights kick on. Everybody knows that you're in reverse, and to someone behind you at a stoplight, that could be a little disconcerting. All right, neutral, brakes on. Okay, right here we have a 400 watt and 100 watt power. We got the 400 watt going because we're idling. Let's see if it's charging my battery pack. What I don't know is if I move, if it charges the battery pack. So you can see with the tonneau cover, this is a Garmin CFX 35, I guess, fridge. Not Garmin. This is a Dometic CFX 35, and you can see there is not much room here. So if you're gonna do the tonneau cover, that's about the fridge size you're gonna work, because these bed rails aren't very tall. And if you notice, with a tonneau cover, there is dust which gets in here. So if you're gonna run the fridge in the back, you're gonna have to be cleaning out your condenser. So there you can see my battery pack. It is being charged by the 120 volt. Maybe I'll have to get my son and sit in the back while I'm driving at speed, but when it kicks to 100 watts, I wonder if that charger will kick off. The charging brick is rated between 100 and I think 240 volts, and it uses a load, it says, of 2 amps. So you're looking at, you know, probably 200 to 240 watts being used at a full charge. You're on a trickle charge. I'm hoping you're only getting about 50 to 60 in there, and then it will charge when you're driving, because when you get up to speed, according to the owner's manual, that charger will, or the alternator will kick the inverter off from the 400 watt mode to the 100 watt mode, I guess, to save power. I don't really understand that, because at higher RPM, it should be putting out more, but that's the way Toyota designed it. So right now, with the tonneau cover flip back one, I can access the fridge barely. I'm going to have to kick it back one more. At least with the low max, that is where my fridge is. I should have room for my tent and some gear in the back. But quite honestly, unless you put a cab over or a big roof rack, with the 5-foot bed, there's not a whole lot of storage here. And so that's why you see big time overland build Toyotas with the roof rack and everything else, because honestly, I think I can fit more with how I've dialed in my Lexus LX 470 between the roof rack and the boxes and the storage I built in the back for my family of 5 than I can in the Tacoma. Okay, in the back, there isn't a whole lot of room here. What I really wish Toyota would have done is put a pop out here for the you know, armrest for the guys in the center. You don't have that, and they could have built the cup holders in that. Instead, they put the cup holders out here. It's a nice sturdy cup holder, but man, that is the rear leg room right there. That is the amount of rear leg room you have in the center position there. And in the back, you pull this up, you do gain storage here, and there is another storage on the other side. What is interesting is with the manual transmission, you don't get the JBL audio. For whatever reason, Toyota says you drive a stick, you don't get good audio. So I don't have the subwoofer on the other side, but I gain storage. And honestly, I guess I'm an audiobook junkie, so I really don't need deep bass, and I would much rather have the storage under the seat. That's kind of a nice touch. We'll do a couple of the cool night mode stuff. First, let's, right here, I've got the automatic high beams. I can kick those on. Now they're on. If I kick it off, it works like a regular high beam. So the beauty of this is, in my rural area, I've mentioned I worry about hitting animals and deer, elk, things like that. If I'm in a rural back area and I get below, I think 35 miles an hour, 30, maybe 25 miles an hour, it kicks the high beams off automatically. Watch here, I've got the auto high beams. It says they're on, but they're not. You can tell because the brights aren't on there. If I go and turn the auto high beams off, boom, there goes the brights, and there goes the blue light. Auto high beams on, auto high beams off. And so when I'm in areas where I'm gonna be slower and I'm looking for game, I kick the auto high beams off. Let's get a view right here and see how the rigid fog lights work. So there's the brights, that's off with the rigid fog lights on. And here is the rigid fog lights off. So you can see they do a pretty good job of lightening up right in front of you, which is great in the off-road environment. I mean, I can see obstacles really good. Now it dims it down. Here is the high beams. And so really where we're at right now, oh, there goes the blinkers. Where we're going downhill now, it's probably not a bad idea in this trail to run with my fog lights. And then I'll kick the brights up. Yeah, actually that's a little better because we're going a little faster. The other thing that's cool here is, look, we're pretty dark now. There's what we're seeing with the brights on. That's with the fog lights. And yet in 4 high, this is the 4 high mode, you can still see the camera system is functioning, so I can see the trail thanks to the LED light package, which was another thing the TRD Pro had standard that was an option on the off-road, which I think is a great option to get if you can find one with it. It was a lot easier to find a cloth TRD off-road with the LED package than it was to find a one with leather. And so that is one I say get, is the LED light package. The safety package with the blind spot monitoring, get that if you aren't going to upgrade the rear bumper. If you're going to upgrade the rear bumper, I think you're going to lose it, at least as of this video that I'm aware of. Again, if anyone knows of a metal armored blind spot monitoring compatible rear bumper, let me know, because I am honestly a little worried about that rear departure angle down in Moab. Like I said, the departure angles really don't matter, but that's with the caveat. It doesn't matter because you can put armored skid plates on the back and just scrape yourself off things. If you don't have those skid plates, then it's not so easy to scrape off things, and that's where I'm at with this. We're probably right now gonna stick this to 3 rated to maybe a mild 4 rated trail on the Moab scale. I'm not going to really build it to handle, you know, 5s or 6s. I'll use the LX 470 for that. On the trail, we're on our way home in the dark. And thank you for coming on this, you know, first impression drive. I'm really excited for this vehicle, and hopefully it's super reliable and lives up to Toyota's expectations. Yeah, it doesn't have all the new bells and whistles, but what it does have is, you know, proven technology and, you know, great aftermarket support. There's a reason that people buy these vehicles. We're not gonna get rid of the GX, the LX anytime soon. The Disco, we're toying with the idea. That one might get sold, but I kind of want to fix up the Discovery. There's some things wrong with it, and we'll do some DIY videos on that, maybe an adventure video on that before we sell it off. So, you know, keep coming, and I hope to see you on the trail.